It's an example of somebody who's very dependent on this and needed to be able to figure out where it was coming from and how to get their business back and up and running.
So the acetone come from one of the products they use to do the laundry?
From memory, I thought it was a spot cleaner at one point they had used, and they kept eliminating detergents they were using. They were trying to buy clean earth. They were just going nuts. The spot cleaning you have to do because you can't bring you can't return it to the client with a spot. So they found eventually things that were less toxic, at least.
Wow, what in the world? I would never have thought you'd find acetone in a laundromat.
Neither did I.
So, okay, it sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that maybe the builder or someone who's buying, like you said, a dry cleaner, a previous gas stations, and consider to, change it into something else, may need what you provide, the phase 1 inspection.
Correct. Change of use. I already made the argument that maybe every home should have one, but I can understand that would not be, I guess, cost effective from a person's standpoint, given all the other expenses associated with buying the home. But change of use is a frequent problem. If one person's buying a gas station or selling one, he doesn't want to buy the pre-existing problems. So we do this due diligence to make sure that the station is leak-free. I watched a gentleman buy a gas station. The bank didn't require phase 1, so he purchased it without doing any due diligence or phase 1 investigation. And the business, it turned out to be a bad deal. His father had a stroke. He had to sell the facility. And the next person did the phase 1, said, "Oh, I'm not buying that." He did some testing and said, "Your tanks leaked." 23 monitoring wells later, so a quick explanation. A monitoring well is a water test well that could be 25 to 30 feet under the ground. The man had a massive plume. Thank goodness he had insurance, but still he couldn't sell. No one would buy until it was cleaned up.
Wow. Can you give an estimate on what that cleanup cost would be?
Yeah, so most policies regarding that are $1 million. That's the usual cap. It has not reached $1 million. The average I see for that description, and that's on the bad side, would be $250,000 to $500,000. That includes testing, remediation, and it's a place no one wants to be.
So that pretty much make that piece of land property just, useless at that point.
And then you get third-party people, right? Because it may affect other sales if you're in a commercial area, and they're like, "Oh, I'm not buying that because it's this contamination coming from this gas station." It still affects the value, even if it's just a stigma. It's not scientific that the gas is going to hurt you into the ground. It causes additional hardship when you're doing a study and you're trying to tell the stakeholder, the bank, that this is worth the value. And it's something that's not caused by you, but it could impact the value of the property.
Well, so I'm speaking from an investor perspective now. It's not that we want to avoid problem, but like one of the words you use is cost effective or cost prohibited. Sometimes we don't go look for problems, right? But if we detect something, if we suspect something, then that's when we do, order, test.
There are some people who say, if I don't know, then I'm innocent. And I guess I understand that strategy. I see with home sales, they'll say, are you aware sometimes of mold or asbestos in your home? And they'll go, well, I don't want to test it and find the problem. So there's the right thing to do. You certainly don't want to sell a home. I saw a case where a young family and a baby was moving, and we did asbestos testing, but it was after the purchase. And there's something called popcorn texturing. That's that kind of texture in sheetrocks or ceiling. And so there's doing the right thing. There's claiming that you didn't know about it. But if they're smart enough to come in and do the testing, then everything's out. And sometimes the buyer comes in who's very knowledgeable and says, look, you have asbestos, you have mold, and now you know about it. Even though you didn't want to know about it, it has come. So my thought process is, I like to sleep at night. I'm sure most of the investors do. And it's better to pay above board to at least gain the knowledge. What you do with that knowledge is up to you, knowing what problems are there with the property.
Well, okay, so let's just speak hypothetical for a moment. If I am like this perfect angel who's flip houses, right? And every time I buy a house, I want to do your full scope test. The asbestos, the mold, all of those tests. Wouldn't you say that my chances of finding problem in these homes, like this, would be like 70, 80%? Every home will have something?
Yeah, well, it's a degree of severity. I wouldn't say every home is going to have asbestos. I've seen asbestos mostly in commercial buildings or older style homes. And now that people are buying in the Heights, these knockdown homes, there's something called transguide, and it's a paneling that's asbestos. So it's a question of, as you said, doing the right thing. It's also another thing is that demolition crew, it's required by the city of Houston if you're demolishing structures. It's a little vague about whether it's a private residence. You may be able to get away with it, but definitely big buildings, when they're knocked down, create all this dust, which really goes in the neighborhood if it has asbestos. So I wouldn't say it's prevalent in every place. I've seen well taken care of homes that don't have mold. Newer homes don't have asbestos. Lead paint hasn't been used in a while. It tend to be used more in commercial. It's a personal choice if it's not required of how you want to do business in this world and what you think the risk is.
I've been asked a lot about passive investment. And let's be real, there is nothing passive about being a landlord unless you have a really good property management company. So if you own an Airbnb or a short-term rental and you want to get back your time, please give our team at Buzz Vacation Rental a call at 281-549-8432 or go to our website at pm.buzzvacationrentals.com.